Okay, welcome everyone to the webinar. Again, congratulations to all of you in the top 50 for making the first ever Apps Africa Top 50. We read through all your applications and we were really excited about reading some of them. We didn't expect as big of a response, to be honest. So we were really happy to see such great ideas coming from different parts of the continent, and we're excited to go through this journey with you. In this webinar, we'll take you through what the concept is Apps for Africa, what it means for us, what we intend for it to mean for you as a participant, what will happen during the process, which we're in now, and also afterwards. And we had some questions coming through the live webinar, which we'll also answer again so that everyone has that insight. So I won't go too much into who NubiaNetwork is because that's on the website, and if you've watched our technical webinar or back-end webinar, that's in there as well. But one thing we're very strong on is working with African entrepreneurs in African markets specifically. That's our core focus and our core audience, and that's something we don't negotiate on. That's definitely our main focus. And the team is myself, I'm the founder of the business. There's Tembalani, who's our lead software developer. Sindiswa and Lucky, who are also certified, Microsoft certified solutions developers. They work on apps as well. On this particular project, Sindiswa was our web developer. So the site that you actually vote on, that was put together by Sindiswa, and Lucky's on the technical support team with Tembalani on the app. And in the marketing side, we have Kekeletso in business development, and then Faith Palesa and Silas on marketing. So we'll talk about some topics that are really important for you to understand how we put this concept together. The first one being the future of work, the competition, what it means. We'll take you through some case studies, the top 50 finalists, what we hope the benefits of this competition are for you, and then we'll deal with the questions that came up through the live webinar. So we work on something, or we focus on something called the future of work. So this is quite a trendy, and it's a new topic that's come out. It falls under 4IR, Fourth Industrial Revolution, about how to really modernize the workspace. And I use NubiaNetwork as an example of that. So we really do work on futuristic means of working. We only work 4 days a week, Mondays to Thursdays. My team, at least, I work more than that. And the team works in-house 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. They're in our office, and then we're based in Rosebank in Johannesburg, and then 2 days a week they work from home. So everyone has a device that we provide for them. We provide internet if they need at home, and we do find that we still get the same level of work as opposed to seeing them every single day. So this is a new way of working, giving people some remote work, working from home, as long as we monitor the quality of the work, which we find is quite good. That's something we work on. So we also do encourage them to take on their own ventures, because our target audience are entrepreneurs. So to understand entrepreneurs, you need to get into that mindset. We encourage them in their own businesses. They all have their own business ideas as much as they work for me. I encourage them to apply anything we teach them to their own ventures. So we incorporate different styles of working and futuristic styles of working, as opposed to being like a corporate type of structure, which we're not. And besides, also for the team, with our clients, we look at how we can use modern ways of doing business. So we look at different business models, exciting business models that really fit more our local market than using textbook business models that may not be relevant in some markets today. And I'm quite passionate on this topic, so I present this topic globally. I presented in India earlier this year at the Global Program for Women's Leadership, and I presented this topic, the future of work, specifically using NubiaNetwork as a case study in France last year. And just to give you some background, so I don't come from a marketing background or technical. I actually studied chemistry and applied chemistry. I worked in the chemical industry for about 5 years. So I worked for a Swiss company. I was based in South Africa, but working between Europe and South Africa and Africa in general. And my portfolio was growing the sub-Saharan African markets. So I consulted for companies like Unilever, and I did projects for Unilever in countries like Kenya, Ghana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mauritius, and of course South Africa, which is where I'm from. And while I was working for corporate, I would travel across these countries, across the continent, and find that part of my job was to measure the Unilever product against a local manufactured product. And almost every time we did our tests, the local product was stronger. So they were producing stronger quality product, but the local company was struggling to get traction in the market. The company that I was generally consulting for would have higher traction in the market, not because their product was superior, but because their marketing to that market was superior. Even though they're not from that country or they are multinational, they really understood how to connect with the market. And I saw that across different industries as well. So for some time, it got quite tough for me, like working for a multinational, but on our own continent, and sort of having to outmarket local entrepreneurs. And eventually I left that company, and that was 3 years ago. And I started NubiaNetwork to really work with local entrepreneurs that I was seeing with really good products, but just not being able to connect with their own market because the bigger multinational was out marketing them. So when we started, we worked mostly on websites, SEO, social media marketing, content, some digital PR, and we received really good references, and people would send references or clients to us that asked for app development. And for a long time, for about a good year, we said to them, we don't want to do apps, not because it's not good money or we don't have the capacity. We have app developers on the team. We just didn't think it made sense in the market because we did a lot of research into how apps are marketed in this on the continent. And then the demand got quite strong, and we decided, okay, we can't turn these clients away so much. So let's think of ways that we can engage better with the market. Like, how can we understand our clients better? How do we understand the understanding of apps? How can we provide them with a good service in a way that makes the app successful? Because all the products we work on, we're very strategic and conscious about how can we use our own local talent to really make the project successful. So we for about a year, we thought of a concept. So Apps for Africa was our fourth idea, but how to really engage with an audience on the continent who need apps, and sort of make them understand the process behind apps, right? So we have app developers on the team. We did do an app project for a client last year. So we have the capacity to do it, but we did see that there's lots of gaps in the market in terms of understanding what's involved with app development. There's also quite a few assumptions from clients that, the app is the business. Once you have an app, that's when you stop working. Everything just happens through the app. So there's all these assumptions, and we wanted to address that instead of turning away clients, which we were doing for quite some time. So we developed Apps for Africa. Like I said, not our first idea. We tried one or two other ideas first. And this is running for us as a development project. So we don't make any money off this. There's no monetization from it. It's not a profit center for us. It is funded by us. We don't have a sponsor. So this is coming out of our own pockets. And we spent about a year measuring how we can do this. So number one, what is our capacity for the team? We spent a year timing our projects in terms of timing and costing our projects. How many people need to be involved in a project like an app? All of the app developers involved also have other work that they do for us. How do we balance that? And we took a full year to actually cost time and plan all of this. And what we found is that we can run with our capacity in the team 2 apps in parallel, and then the other work we do as well. So there was a question in the group about, why don't we just raise all the funds for all top 10 and then make 10 apps? We don't have the capacity to do that. It's not even a financial issue. For us to get to be able to take on one more app onto our current capacity, we'd have to hire at least 1 developer, if not 2, to be safe. And for us to onboard 1 developer, it takes about 3 to 6 months because we go through induction with them. We want them to be really involved in our team and understand the way of working. And recruiting at the beginning is not easy. So even if we could raise money for all top 10 or top 50, so if it's, I want to be clear, it's not a financial issue. Number one, there's no financial gain for us. This is for us to better understand how to connect with the market and make the market more aware of what's involved with app development, number one. Number two, we are doing this at the maximum capacity that we have. out of our own pockets with all good intention and with all the love in the world. So we hope that you do respect that. But if you have any other questions to that, you're welcome to ask me as well. Okay, so just so you know which sort of projects we work on in general. So these are some projects that we can list. So when I started this business, initially I started as a freelancer 2.5 years ago, and I never thought it would be a business. I was just on my own, and the demand became quite big. My first client was She Leads Africa, so they are a Nigerian startup. I worked directly with the co-founder Afua on the digital side when they were expanding into South Africa. So that was my first sort of portfolio, but then I also helped a lot with some of their work in Nigeria. I was running Slave Festival, dealing with some issues we had with payments. Like we struggled getting payments in and out of Nigeria, especially to South African suppliers. At the time, it was quite an issue with payments, electronic payments. So I worked with that as my first client very early on. That really helped me get a better understanding of how to grow a community online, how to develop digital products for engagement online. I worked on their business development strategy. So that was my first real exposure into the market. I also worked with Link in Kenya. So they are a recruitment platform for blue-collar workers in Kenya, like plumbers, cleaners, gardeners, which happens to be 80% of the working population in Kenya. So their tagline is linked in for linked out, and I worked with them on a bit of UX on their website, also some custom engagement strategy. They are the most funded startup in Kenya. So I think it's quite interesting. You'll see in this presentation, sometimes it's not money as a discussion. I think a lot of entrepreneurs think that the more money you have, the better digital product you'll have. And we wanted to be very clear that, of course, money is a resource. It doesn't hurt. But there are very important strategic things to know when you do projects like this. That will help you engage better with your audience and make your product better, like your app become more successful or your app become an actual business tool. So with Link, the point was they are the most funded startup on the continent, or well, in Kenya at least. And they did struggle with engagement at some time, and then I consulted with them on that project. Another customer, one of our favorites, is called Vernacular. So it's a learning platform to teach kids vernacular languages. They wanted an app to start off with right at the beginning, and we said to them, you have to pace it out. So she had a website which just wasn't built for audience engagement. We've updated that now. Her social media strategy we need to work on. She has put a break on the project for this year. So we probably, if we do start the app, it will be next year. But this is an example of where we have a client say to us, we would like an app for the business. We love the idea, we love the project, but we have to pace it in a way that makes sense for the overall success of the business. And sometimes an app is not the answer to your issue. As an example with Vernacular, we had to work a lot on the content, the learning management system. So basically we're doing like an online school where kids can learn a vernacular language. And if we had done this on an app, we would have missed a lot of information in between that we're learning through doing this for the website. So even though she had the funding and she had the money to do it, we had to pace it out in a way that makes sense for the actual client and the business of the client. And then some actual app development projects we've worked on. So with Standard Bank, we worked on the UX and the UI of the mobile app. There is a specific subset of the audience that is big on their books. So they have a high demographic of a certain audience on the actual books, but they're not seeing this audience on the app or adopting the app. So we worked with them on a strategy on how to develop that adoption. That was last year. So they're still working through some of the points we did in consulting with them. Another client we worked on was MTN Play. So Standard Bank is the biggest bank in Africa, and some countries called Stanbic, especially Nigeria, which is a big market for them. And again, I just want to be very clear that the first two clients, Standard Bank and MTN, don't have financial constraints. I mean, they have all all the funds available to them, but they do really struggle with especially user engagement and adoption. And I'll explain to you in this webinar what it is that's so important that a lot of clients miss, big corporate clients, medium clients, entrepreneurs miss with app development projects that can then affect the app success and the business success overall. Okay, with MTN Play, again, MTN, the biggest brand on the continent, highest market cap, and they're not getting adoption of a certain product they have called MTN Play. They use influencers. They've done a lot of marketing, but it's not being adopted. So when we did consult for them, we did say that there was an issue with their persona, and I'll take you through that a bit later. Also, the monetization strategy wasn't very clear for the app, so we gave them a few suggestions on that. A client we worked with, they asked us to build an app. So this is called, the client is called Goliath and Goliath in South Africa. They asked us to build an app for managing their artists. So they manage comedians. They run a comedy club. They run a few comedy clubs, but they have a major one in one part of the city. And their talent, or the artists or the comedians, would often either appear late to work or appear drunk or double book themselves across different clubs. And they said they need an app to fix that. So they consulted with us, we had a look at it, and we said, we don't think an app will help that problem. Even if all your comedians have apps, if they show up drunk to work, I don't think an app is going to fix that problem. So I mean, we say this with all the respect in the world, but this is an example of clients who come to us and say, this is the problem and we want an app. And we say to them, but an app's not the answer to that. Okay, so we can build an app, that's not a problem. And there was money on the table. It's like, we just need the app. And we said, no, you need to fix your staffing issues. Okay. Well, I mean, with respect, we said that. Eventually, 6 months later, after we consulted with them, they sold off their artist management to another entertainment house that had been running with comedians for a much longer time. They still own the business and they still run the business, but more the social side of it, and the smaller clubs where they deal with like more up and coming artists that are easier to manage. So we've often had this case. I mean, these development projects are from clients who had the money up front. It wasn't an issue of, we can't get funds, but the answer to it wasn't the app in the back end. Technically, that was the problem, or even the app in general. It was understanding who your audience is and or the problem, and how you can manage that problem. And sometimes an app isn't the answer to that. So like I say, we often had these queries come up and we would turn clients away. But now we're seeing that there are projects that can be monetized through apps, or can be made successful through apps. And we want to develop a system where we onboard clients in a way that makes sense for both themselves and ourselves. Okay, so this is really why we stay away from apps, because we did our research early on, like I said, before we even would engage with clients on app development. And what we find, this is from Play Store, looks quite similar for iStore as well. But if you look at the statistics of apps that are listed on Play Store, 60% of the apps that are listed on Play Store have never been downloaded, not even once. Okay, besides the owner of the company downloading it. So most apps that you list on Play Store don't get downloaded. These are global stats, not only for Africa. Of those, only 20% are used once. So it's downloaded, used once, and then abandoned. 95% of all apps on the Play Store are abandoned within 1 month. And only 6% of users drive in-app purchase value. Yeah. So this is really the life cycle of an app. And this is kind of why we stayed away from it. Not because, I mean, you can understand it's a good project, it brings in good money, but we know that in the system, it doesn't really bring in results for the clients. And sometimes we can find easy ways for the clients to solve their problem. But like I said, apps are becoming such a big demand. We want to sort of maybe deal with this issue and see how we can engage with clients in a way to make them understand how much is involved from the client side into making the app successful. And these, I mean, if you haven't seen the stats before, for us, it's always quite shocking. The most apps don't get downloaded, and that's a realistic stat. So you have to be very conscious about that when you're building your app. And the reason that we have these statistics is because, like I said, there's a gap between what the client expects the app to do, number one, and number two, what the client expects from the developers. Okay, there are responsibilities that lie with the client that they have to know and invest in, not financially, but like invest in terms of the business, and bring that to the table for the app to be successful. And often this isn't communicated by developers because, number one, it's not their responsibility, and number two, there tends to be poor communication between developers and clients in general. So what we wanted to do with the top 50 competition is simulate an environment where potential clients who have great ideas for apps understand what's involved with doing the app. So the first part of really getting people to download your app is telling them about your app, right? The reason that 60% of apps don't get downloaded is because, well, you didn't tell anybody about your app. What we see happen in the market is a client will work on, or they'll hire developers to work on the app. And then the day the app is on the Play Store or the iStore, they tell people to download the app. Okay, you should be engaging with people way before the app is launched live on the Play Store. You should be telling them the app is coming out, giving them information about what the app means, asking for their input, what you know, if they're your potential clients or your users of the app, what they would like to see in the app, develop hype around the app. Okay, this is constant, consistent work that has to come from the client side, not from the developer side. So you wanted the top 50 competition to simulate that. Okay, so that's why we have you ask for votes. What you would do in real life is ask people to download your app, right? So that you don't fall into this statistic. And that's the first sort of prototype we had for the competition. We asked you to download our app and then have people vote for you on there. Okay, that's not for us. We don't monetize on our app. Our app is there as a development project for the team. So the number of downloads we have doesn't make a difference to us, but you would have to do that if you have an app developed. Okay, whether you win this competition or directly have an app development, you would have to ask your audience to go and download your app. Okay, you have to get into the rhythm and the spirit of doing that. Okay, so that you don't fall into this category. Then you would have to ask them to regularly come back and use your app. Okay, so that's why we have voting happen every day. So we want you to get into this sort of rhythm of really educating the audience about your app, telling them to go and do your app. And right now it's on a web page, which is much easier than asking them to download an app, because that takes a bit more effort. And already here we're seeing some people come up with issues around the competition. It's a very competitive space. Okay, apps are extremely competitive. If you're competing right now, you're competing with fellow entrepreneurs, and you have full spec of, you know, how much traction they're getting. You can even see what they're doing online to get that sort of vote numbers. When you're on somebody's phone, you're on their personal space, and you're competing against WhatsApp, social media, banking apps, rideshare apps. Okay, it's very unlikely, especially if your app is quite big. So that's one part of this. If your app is very big and takes up a lot of space, it's very unlikely that someone will delete their WhatsApp or their Facebook or their rideshare app or their banking app for your app, right? So the first app you have onto the market has to be quite simple. That's what we do with the APK. We make it quite simple. We test it with the audience. We have limited features on there, just so that you can get it on the Play Store, get it downloaded, get your users used to using it several times and not abandon it for a short space of time. Okay, and that's also where you have to constantly go back to them and tell them to use your app. Okay, that's work that you as the business owner has to do. Okay, and no one tells you this when you speak to developers. They just start working on your app, and you can have the best app in the world developed. If no one knows about it, they're not going to download it. They do download it. If they're not understanding the benefit of it, they will leave the app very, very soon. And we've all done that. We've all downloaded apps that look cool. About a week in, it didn't really make sense to us anymore. It was taking up space. Take it off our phone. Okay, so there's a lot of work that has to come from your side to grow your audience in a way that they understand what your app is and that they constantly come back to using your app. This is our team at the Google office in Johannesburg. So we have training done by Google UX trainers. They fly in from head office in San Francisco, I think it is. Yeah. So so we get trained by Google UX designers about UX design, how to put the UX of a project together. I'll get into detail about what that is now. So user experience is developing the app for the needs of the user. Okay, so you all have business ideas, and you all have great ideas. I mean, the ideas we chose in the top 50 are really stellar. When we started running the top, apps for Africa, I didn't expect to get this many ideas. We actually weren't going to have top 50. I think we would have maybe had 20. We were just hoping to get 20 submissions, to be honest. Like, we didn't expect to get these many submissions, and then to be such high quality submissions were also great. So the top 50 are really great ideas. What has to be key and core of your idea is, what value does this provide to the user? Because remember, you're asking the user to download an app onto a very personal space on their phone, and you're competing with other apps like rideshare apps, social media apps, banking apps, and WhatsApp. Okay. So you need to understand who your user is, understand what they can gain from your app, understand how your business brings that value through the app, understand how you can constantly bring the user back. These are all parts of user experience design. Okay, so most developers that I've seen, and in our research that we did for this, we asked 3 agencies and development houses for quotes on doing the NubiaNetwork app. Only one of them had a UX designer on the team, and when we asked him questions, he couldn't answer simple UX questions. That was a bit of a red flag for us. And I think that's also where the problem comes in, because I've worked with developers across the continent. I've hired them on freelance projects. There's great level of work and skill on this continent, that's not a doubt. But often on app development, there's a lack of it's difficult to find this talent, but there isn't a UX person on the team. So when they develop the app that may be technically very strong and very good, there isn't a focus on the UX, and there's a neglect of the UX, user experience on the app, and that's where the app fails. That's why you have the statistic, because we haven't thought about, what does the user want? Why would the user download my app? Number one, why would they use it more than once? And then why would they continue using it several times regularly over some time? Okay, these are all UX questions. So it doesn't matter how strong your developer is. If they don't have a UX support on their team, this is very likely the outcome of your app. So we really want to focus on this, and this is what the webinar will talk about today specifically. So what we do and what we plan to do for the top 10 is take you through this. Number one, and I do want you to think of, before I get into that, I do want you to think of hiring a development house or agency or contractor or freelancer the same way you would hire an accountant. If you hire an accountant, the best accountant in the business, if there's no money in your bank, there's nothing the accountant can do, right? Unless they're a magician or I don't know. But the accountant can't make your business successful. They can work with what you have and what you bring to the table, and then obviously help you and give you advisory from that. Same with legal, same with marketing, right? The same with digital. So a really good digital agency can leverage or give you products to leverage your brand, but there is a lot that has to come from you as a brand owner into that. And like I said, one thing we see being missed in this field, not only across the continent, I've seen this happen in other regions as well, is that there's a lack of UX understanding and how important this is to really keep an app sustainable, number one, give you the ROI that you want, number two, even if you have funders. If you have funders, they want to see some sort of return on the app as well. And even if you fund it out your own pocket, you definitely want to see return on the app, right? It definitely has to show you something with value. And that's what user experience really will help you do. So to do that, you have to develop a UX toolbox, which we will do with the top 10. So this is what we plan to raise the money for. When we do crowdfunding for you, this is what we will use the money to do that for. We'll develop a UX toolbox for you, and that involves things like pixel tracking, prototyping tools, heat maps, content planning, A/B split testing. The APK is the technical tool, so it's the actual app designed, but having all this information, the APK becomes quite valuable because then you can actually test it with your audience, right? So you have a mock app. It's not a live app, but it looks like an app. It works like an app on your phone, on any phone. It can be downloaded. And we've done the UX with this toolbox on it, and you can really test it with the audience, okay? If you have this, you can take it to a funder. If you're speaking to funders at the moment, this is really impressive to show them all the UX work you've done, all the persona work you've done. We'll take you through a persona just now. And the fact that you have a workable prototype. So you can use this for funding, whether you are a for-profit business or non-for-profit NGO. It's really impressive to show an APK, and it also helps you understand how your app will look, right? So you get to understand how it works. You can test it with your audience, see their reaction to it. This is very valuable, I do think, and this is what we want for the top 10, and we will actually take you through how to do all these products. Okay, so just to show you what something from this toolbox looks like. So pixel tracking is our #1 step that we do with UX. And I'll just show you what my actual pixel looks like. So this is our pixel for NubiaNetwork. Okay, so this is what my Facebook looks like. So with Facebook, I set up something called a pixel. To do this, you need to be registered as Facebook for developers. And a pixel is a piece of code that you embed onto your website. So you can actually see what's happening on your website, like in terms of real information for your app, right? So my pixel here is tracking when someone comes onto my website, this goes by day, where are they accessing my website from? Is it from an Android phone, desktop, mobile, iPhone, or tablet? Okay. This is the first campaign that we're running where we have so much on mobile. Most of our campaigns we run on desktop because most of what we do is either directly with the client or in workshops where everyone sign onto their desktop and they follow us through desktop. This campaign is running it seems to be running mostly off mobile, right? So that tells us more information about where our audience is coming from. When we do run campaigns that end up mobile, we always have a lot more Android than we have iPhone. So that also tells us it's okay if we're starting our first prototype on Play Store, because we do have most of our audience from there, right? So we're not making this up. We're not just like hoping that most of our audience is on Play Store, and it's quite a significant amount, more than an iPhone. We know this because we actually have these stats, okay? We can get a lot more insights from this. So for example, the insights I'm really interested in is who are my demographics coming into onto our platform. So this is called metadata, just to be clear. So we never get the actual email of the person or the name of the person. You actually can't track the person's identity directly from this, but we get metadata. So we package the data into things that make sense for us. So metadata will be able to tell you the demographics of the person, where they're coming from, which carrier they're using, mobile carrier, which is also important for us to know. So our metadata, for example, shows that most of our audiences in this age group, that's always been with us. We've tried running campaigns that target a younger age group. For some reason, this is always the age group that seems to connect with us best. And we also adjust our conversations and the level of work we do to fit that age group. This is the first campaign that we've run where we have more female, or almost as much females as men. Most of our campaigns, we have about 70% male audience, because mostly we run very like tech campaigns, more like tech-based. We haven't, not that women aren't in tech, but I think maybe just my writing style and like engagement style tends to speak more to that audience. So this is the first audience where we've received like par, female and male, and that for us is a big achievement because we really struggled to engage with the female audience, which we always wanted to do. So that tells us that this campaign has also been more successful than we have when we run other campaigns. I can see where my audience comes from, so this tells me which countries my audience comes from, which cities they come from, which languages they speak. Something that's also quite interesting to know for me, and I think for me what's quite interesting, it's not on here. I'm not finding it now, but one thing I do want to show you, something we call, we actually measure our sales funnel online. So the sales funnel shows you how many people go from, if you understand the basics of UX or basics of digital marketing, we go from awareness to consideration to action. So awareness of people who don't know about you, consideration of people who know about you but might be considering you versus someone else who's a similar supplier. Action is where they actually engage with you online. So there's a cost for this. We call it CPA, cost per action or cost per click. And this shows me the customer journey of that, right? So this is my sales funnel. In the top, I mean, if you're studying digital marketing or if you're practicing digital marketing, and it's such a new field nowadays, the best way you can learn digital marketing is to actually do it. If you look at any digital marketing webinar and they talk about a sales funnel, the best expected sales funnel, like if you're doing really good work, you expect to get about 2 to 5% here. And our sales funnels are 24%. That means when someone sees us, they engage with us a second time and they actually click onto action for us. And about 1 in 4 people do that, right? That is an exceptionally high amount. And that comes from us really understanding our audience and understanding how to engage with them. And this is work we've done over 2 years. Okay, so this didn't happen in one campaign. It did not look like this in our first campaign, right? But we've literally worked through our audience and we understand our audience so well. We know how to speak to them. We know how to engage with them. We know how to sell to them eventually. And selling to them at the beginning, you don't sell anything at all. You have to engage first, and we understand that process, and that takes time. And we've gotten to the point where 1 in 4 of our clients that we reach actually turn into a payable product. Okay, so that's a really high metric, and that's something that from our own experience we try and teach to our audience. Okay. For some people, this also sounds low. I mean, like I say, a good sales funnel, if you really start off with digital marketing, like even with the big companies, is about 2%. So this is 10 times more than a good sales funnel. And again, for some people, it might sound low, but the thing with digital is you can reach a high audience, but you don't convert as much, right? So we've really focused on how do we convert, okay, besides reaching a lot of people, how do we turn that into an actual sale? Number one, this takes time. It takes a lot of intricate work in the back end, understanding who your audience is. And it has to be very strategic how you do it. Okay, so we do show the top, or we do want to show the top 10 how we actually do that as well. And as I showed you here with the analytics from the app, if you look at our demographics, here we have most of our audience in this age group 25 to 34, and that's what our persona looks like. Okay, yeah. So we know, like I said, we've tried marketing to other audiences, older audiences and younger audiences, and for some reason this is the group that really connects with us. So now we know that this is the group who connect with us. How can we get to know more about them? And this is the persona that we have for Nubia. What we know about our audience is, number one, they have some form of income, either through a job or some means, and then they have a side business, and their side business is what they want to grow into their main form of income, right? So right now, the app idea that you have is probably not your main form of business. You probably make money somewhere else. And when I say business, I mean actually monetizing, right? So you have income coming from somewhere else, but your actual goal and your dream is to make that side business your main business. Also, what we know about our persona is that they're very digitally savvy, right? So they will Google, they will literally check you out all over the internet. So we know that they know what they can Google, right? If they might not know every detail, but they know how to find out what they need to find out. So we have to respect that about our audience as well. So we have to make it very transparent what we're doing, and make sure that we explain very well what we're doing, and engage with them in a way that's also online, because they are very digital. The persona also assumes that the app is the way that they can get their side business to become their main business. So they think that an app would be able to allow them to leverage their business up into the scale where it's all they have to do, instead of working, because right now they're working across another job and starting or developing the side business. We do know that our persona wants to connect with the development team. Either they have perceptions that it's too expensive. What we do find from our persona is that they don't really, and I say this with respect, they don't really understand how to have that conversation with developers, how to ask them direct questions, how to protect themselves so that they get the best deal from the app development. So we have to give them something that helps with that, if we want to have them become our clients. Okay. What we also know from our persona is that most of them aren't using the money they make from their main income stream very much into their side business. So in South Africa, the reason for that we understand from the persona is something called black tax. So it's a concept that is strong here, but I think applies to other parts of the continent as well, which means it's not a fiscal concept, but it's sort of a well-known concept that when you are making money, a lot of your money has to go back to supporting the family. So you most likely don't have means after supporting your family, taking care of yourself, also spending some money on entertainment for yourself. There isn't much money for the side hustle, because you have to reinvest money into your own family or your own needs, your rent and those things, for example. So our persona, as much as they want the side business to be their main business, they're not investing money into that. Okay, so we also have to appreciate that and understand that. So these are all things that we found from online searching and seeing our online engagement of this persona, really speaking to them offline as well. So it's not just online. And we really we develop an understanding of who our persona is so that we know how we can best connect with them. And that's where Apps for Africa came in. Number one, we want to connect with the persona who has this demand for making an app of their side business to become their main business, essentially. Number two, there are some gaps that they don't understand in terms of developers, how to connect with developers, even with developers who are doing this. There are some gaps that they don't understand in terms of app success in the market. So we want to connect with them on that. And number three, they don't have the financial means in most cases to pay for the side business, okay, or even the app. So a lot of them will come to us and say, I need a funder, but this is what I would do if I had a funder. So that's why we have the crowdfunding running for the top 10. And we've given an actual app for the winner, because we understand that they won't be able to pay out their own pockets. So we need to think of all of those things when we're dealing with our persona, right? And we need to see how our services can then link to them and provide them with value. But then, of course, that has to turn for value to us as well, because we are a business and a for-profit business, and we have to think of how to structure all that together. Okay, so what we've done with, like I said, with the top 50, or this competition essentially, is we wanted to make a simulated playground of what it would take for an entrepreneur to develop an app on this continent, right? And we want to take you through the actual steps of it in a way that's real for you. So that before app development starts, before you even start with the developers working on the app, whether you have funding or not, you should be doing this sort of work. Who is your persona? Who are you talking to? Who will use your app? How will that monetize into business? Okay, and I cannot stress this enough. You'll hear me talk about personas like all day, every day. You'll probably block me on WhatsApp because I talk about this so much. But the reason is because if you don't understand your persona, this is where you will end up. Okay, I've seen developers develop apps that never get downloaded. Not because it's probably one of the best apps on Play Store, but it never gets downloaded because they don't know who the persona is, or they haven't developed a persona engagement strategy. You have to know who the persona is so that you can make sure your app is downloaded. Once people are downloading your app, have a regular strategy to bring them back to use the app so that they don't abandon it or don't only use it once. Okay, whether or not you have some input value, that's secondary. This is really what you should focus on. Okay. So you have to do this before you speak to developers. Understand your persona, get a persona strategy. And like for us, it took 2 years because we learned from scratch. We taught ourselves how to do this. So we don't want you to waste 2 years or even to go through the stage if you have funding and then go through the funding or take money out your own pocket, develop an app, and then you don't get adoption of your app. Adoption meaning people actually download the app and use it over time. So we'll teach you this language as well. These words you should be speaking with your developers, right? How can I increase adoption? How am I making sure my UX is optimized? If you have multiple personas, that's fine, but you always start with one at the beginning because, again, you don't want your app to be too bulky. Otherwise, people won't download it. These are basic mistakes and it's not your developer's responsibility to tell you this, okay? No one tells you this. So we want to develop. The top 50 competition was developed to really get you into understanding all of these things. Test your audience. So once you have an APK, which you can do before development, you can make simple prototypes. We'll show you how to use prototyping tools without having an APK. So an APK you would need a developer for, but there are simple prototyping tools available. For the top 10, we'll give you all access to that, where you can make a prototype and get people to use your app, like watch them when they use your app, see what their reaction is. A lot of times with us, even in UX training, the first time people see our app, they're like, oh, I don't know. Should I go to the next screen? Do I stop here? What's the value for me here? Like that's the sort of feedback you get. But you go to the persona, you test the persona with your workable prototype, and you get feedback from them. Your persona drives what's on the app, okay, without you losing the value or the brand of your app. But the feedback comes from your persona. So you really have to know who they are. Content marketing, and I've seen people do this already in the top 50. You need to develop a story around your app. Tell people why they should be using your app, why you should download an app. Think of the last app you downloaded. Like there was a reason. Someone sold you on the reason for it, right? And think of apps aside from, the big four, social media, banking, right, share, WhatsApp also being social media. Think of apps that you have aside from that. There's value for you in having that app. It could be a game. It could be, whatever it is. It could be learning. It could be a technical thing. It could be, whatever it is, there is value for you there, right? So think of how you can best provide value for that and start by telling people, like, we hope to provide this in the app. And again, engage your audience. Ask them to give you ideas. Ask them what would they love to see in your app, what would be interesting for them to see, because they are the ones who are going to use it. So why not ask them for the help? And honestly, people are very open with giving this feedback, especially online. And then you have to develop hype around the app. So before the app is launched, like I said, a big mistake is people work on development and they start telling you on the day that it's launched that there's an app here, and then the audience doesn't download it because they're like, I don't know why I should put this on my phone. What does it actually do? So develop hype around your app. And that's where this voting system comes in with the top 50, because we want you to go out and tell people to vote and tell people to come back every day, because that's what you want them to do on your app. So you have to get into that rhythm of it, but you develop hype around your app, right? Develop a narrative about what it is, what it means to you, what it should mean to them, what you're hoping to achieve, all of this. And that's part of content marketing as well. You should definitely, before developing your app, have a Facebook and landing page for the app. At least, if you don't have a website, at least a landing page. So that's quite basic. You don't need to be doing a lot of your content marketing through Facebook, but we need Facebook for some of the UX tools. So if Twitter or Instagram is your thing, that's fine. But as long as you have a Facebook page and a landing page, those are the basics you need before you even talk to a developer, okay? Or you can be talking to developers at that stage, but before you start your app development, this is what you need to do as an entrepreneur. During app development, with the development agency you choose, ask them many questions. Okay, and with the top 10, we'll teach you how to ask these questions and also tell you what answers you should be getting and what answers are red flags. You want to get to know the team on the app. So there should never just be one person on an app. Okay, even in our team, there are strong people on our team, and there's no one who can take an app from planning, implementation, execution, success, post, live, all that journey. There's not one person who can do all of that, right? Not a developer, not a UX person. You need you need at least one developer. And even for us, we find most of our projects we need 2 or 3 developers on. You need at least one UX person, and you need at least one project manager. The project manager is generally called as, well, the technical term is a Scrum Master. So you can ask your developers, are you running Scrum, Agile, or Waterfall? So we'll tell you all those words that basically are similar processes. But if they're not running Scrum, that's a big red flag for me. So Scrum is a good tool that is a UX tool that will really help with the development of the actual app. And if they are running Scrum, who the Scrum Master is, you should be able to contact the Scrum Master and have regular conversations with the Scrum Master. If you don't have contact with the Scrum Master, that's a big red flag, right? So become tight with the Scrum Master, like take them out for lunch, get to know them really well, because this is the person who will really influence the success of your app. And they're sort of in between yourselves and the development team. Make sure you're getting enough content out there about the app. So even though it's not live, it's not developed, develop content for post-app. So when it is live, how are you going to be engaging with your audience? And use the content that you were doing before to do this hype. Maybe some of your content works, others don't work. Look at what else in the industry is working. And I would say for the top 50, do that. So if you see someone in the top 50 being very successful, getting a lot of votes, look at what they're doing. Try and get some of the strategies, because you will have to do that for your app anyway. And that's the best way to learn is we follow all our competitors online. Like, I want to know what they're doing, and you're quite bare online. So, I mean, you can see what people are doing very obviously. Get to know their strategies, okay? At this stage, you can also start developing a PR strategy. It's definitely important for post-app, getting people to know why your app is out there, what you plan to do with it, what the benefit is for them. Again, I can't say this enough, because we don't want you to end up in being the never downloaded apps, okay? So get some PR out there. Can be digital, can be offline. We always advise that you try and do both, okay? So just run some offline campaigns. Online campaigns are quite easy to run, but try and keep as much as you can of both. And then once your app is developed, it's live now, it's online. What you should be doing yourself is adoption rate reports. So you can either get software for that. You can ask anyone who's in UX about how to measure adoption rate. Generally, these softwares are quite, they can be expensive. So you can either just take the number that you see off the Play Store, how many people have downloaded it. There are some softwares that can tell you like why people are falling off. Either it takes load time is too long. It can be that your app is too big, that sort of thing, right? So you want to understand why they are using your app, so you can do more of that, and also why people are dropping off your app or deleting the app. So you can work around that. Community management is the people who are using the app, or even online, who are your followers and engaging with you quite well, how you can manage their questions and manage their the interaction with you. Definitely a lot of PR and marketing at this stage on the app and why people need to use it. If you look at case studies like Netflix, Uber, and Airbnb, if you look at their budget for UX versus their budget for development, and for Uber, I think it's about 50-50, right? So they spend just as much on UX as they do on technical development. Post-development, you actually start spending more on UX, because you want to, you're doing more of these things, trying to understand why people are using the app and doing more of that, and then making the small changes you need on the back end, sort of relatively small, but it's not a full app development project. So I think that's another thing we want to address in the market. Sometimes when we always ask clients what your budget is for marketing, and often they come to us and they're like, oh, I only have money to develop the app right now. I don't have money for marketing. Okay. So it's not that we are asking for this money because we want it. It's because you need to understand how to budget both for development and UX. Okay. Because most of the developers or most agencies will only charge you for one. We've seen an agency that added a UX charge onto the bill. And that's fine. Okay. And if you do get that as well, you can ask us to vet the bill for you. You can block out the numbers. We'll just check what they're putting on the bill, so it makes sense that you're paying for that. But be prepared to add a UX budget onto your app development project, right? So if you're asking a funder for a budget and you only know a developer, maybe you know a young developer around, or someone in your family or friendship group is a developer and they want some work and they'll help you with it. You need to pay them a bit for the software and their time, of course. That's fine, budget for that, and then ask them, or try and get another UX person and then ask them for the budget and group that as one cost, okay? But you cannot only be paying for development and leaving out UX. Otherwise we end up being on my favorite slide. We don't want this to happen for you, okay? And this is really, really UX issues. It's not to be listed on the Play Store. You need to have a certain level of development. So it's not that the developers are bad. It's because we're not focusing on the UX, okay? All right, so that's really important for us, and this is what we hope that you get from this. So we've sort of simulated this environment where you, number one, is the top 50, get to understand what you do before your app. During app development for the top 10, we'll go through all of these things and teach you how to work on these. And then post app development, this is what you should be doing as well. Okay, so we do have some homework for the top 50. So like I said, we want you to really work on this as if you were going to build an app, whether you are the winner, top 10 or not. Think of this process as a time where you will actually be working towards building your app for the business idea that you have and that we definitely love. So think of your company persona, right? For the top 10, we'll give you a template on how to do this, and also how to ask the questions to get this information is very important. But for any persona, you need the demographics, the gender, the age, the location and interest, and then a blurb about them. So what are they interested in? What do they need that your company can potentially provide for them? So nowhere in here should you mention your company, because it's not about you, it's about the persona, the users, okay? So nowhere in here do we say NubiaNetwork can get them an app, okay? We actually haven't been pushing apps, but we know that the persona wants to look at an app for their business. We know that they've told us that, okay? We found out this information from them. So it's completely about them. So write about half a page or a page about your persona and what their needs are. And nowhere in here should you be talking about your business and what you can do for them, okay? We just want to understand who the persona is. So once you have that draft, think of 10 people who fit the persona at least 80%. So you don't have to show that to me. You can keep it to yourself. But try and think of 10 people who fit that persona at least 80%. So it doesn't have to be 100% on the mark, but it should be 80%. All the projects I've run, I've never been the persona. I've never fit the persona more than 80%, even with Nubia. So I fulfilled this one, but here, this is my main business. I don't have another business or income and then use that to fund Nubia, right? So for me, that's a major thing that I don't fit here. So I don't fit the persona. And we've run several projects where we don't fit the persona. Most likely, from what I've seen, a lot of you don't look like your persona, and that's okay. That's actually very okay. You don't have to look like the persona, be the persona, but you have to understand who they are. Okay, so when you have those 10 people, and like literally write down their names, keep it in an Excel spreadsheet, which features do you think this person would want in your app? Okay, so now you know your persona, they fit your business. What do you think they would want from your app? Okay, so for each of them, or not for each of them, but try and list about 3 features in your app that you think the persona would want. And then we'll show you how to do this. So you can send us the first 3 here, and then we'll show you how to ask these 10 people questions that will give you the answers of what they want in your app, okay? And this for us every time opens up doors and gives us new ideas and gives us new insight into the persona. Like every time we get ideas from you that we would never have imagined, and the persona tells us exactly what they want in the app, okay? So this is a very important step. But you have to be very careful here how you ask them the questions. You don't ask leading questions to get the answer that you want, and don't prompt them to give answers, okay? Or don't like sort of steer the answer in a direction. And then once you have that, you update the draft of your persona. So like I say, for us, this took about probably less than 2 years, maybe like 1.5 years to get this together, okay? So our full persona is about a 2 to 4 page document, much more deeper than this, but this is the summary of what we have. And we focus every time we build something, if it's new new products, if we're marketing to our persona, every time we do this exercise where we talk to the persona, we're doing it for them. It's a product for them. It doesn't necessarily look like us, but we understand this is who connects with us, and we literally speak to them through our products. Okay, so where are we going with Apps for Africa? So like I said, this is funded from us, from our own pockets. We don't make money for this. We won't be able to do this again without a sponsor. So we're hoping to get a sponsor for another round of Apps for Africa, possibly next year. It's been quite intense so far. So I think this year we just want to focus on going through the competition, working with the top 10, and then working with the winner as well. So next year we probably might run another one. We're looking to get sponsors for more interesting variants, maybe Apps for Africa Kids. That's something we've always been strong on, is getting app development skills to kids. That was actually one of our very first ideas for Apps for Africa, and it was an idea that when we tested Persona, it failed miserably. I did speak in the live webinar about what went wrong with that one. We just didn't understand the persona, and we loved the idea, but the persona didn't really get it. And fair enough, and we had to respect that from them, and also it didn't really make business sense. So we just loved the concept we had, but we didn't execute well. We didn't understand the persona well enough. So we had to scratch that idea. But we would still like to do it with a sponsor, and then with a better understanding now that we have of the persona. We also, because we do some work with Standard Bank, we know that they do struggle with getting female adoption onto their app. So with them, we might look at something like females in fintech if we can get an FSP as our sponsor, because that is an audience that the banking apps do struggle with in general. So that's important for us to find sponsors for future campaigns that we'll run. Alternatively, if we don't run another campaign, we could look at doing workshops. So that's something we have been marketing, and it's not picking up as well. So marketing to bigger businesses and even corporates to sort of do these workshops for them, to fund it either for entrepreneurs or to have it as an entrepreneurship exercise. What I do think might likely come out of this is basically online training of this. So again, looking at our persona, we know that they have a big need for apps, and they're looking to get more information about app development, or have connection with an app agency. And maybe an online training workshop is the best solution to them. So that could be where this ends up as well. So that's our projections in terms of this project. Like I say, it's a business development project for us. We think that if we do, like I say, we're not generating any revenue. If we do generate revenue, we project it to come in 2 or 3 years. Realistically, 3 years, but I always try and push for a bit shorter. So we might only start actually making any money from this in 2 to 3 years. And we've planned it out, and we've sort of budgeted for that. Okay, so the next steps for the top 50. So I would encourage all top 50 to really use this platform as just a training ground and an open forum for your own app development. So any questions you have on app development from this webinar, from any of the issues that have been brought up in the chats or email or this webinar, as I said, use this to ask questions and use this to empower yourself. So literally, like, spam us if you need. But for the top 50, I will close the communication once we do start with top 10, because with top 10, it will become a bit more focused on the specific avenues to get app download and app adoption rate over time. Also, we're very encouraging of you to network with your fellow entrepreneurs, and I've seen you guys do that in the WhatsApp group. It's really cool. Just respect the other person's engagement with you. If they choose to engage or not, that's their option. And then look at people in the top 50 and see what they're doing to get engagement for the app. So even if it's not the leader of the pack, maybe you can find something else that someone else is doing in your region that really works for you to get some more hype and more votes in. And votes again, because this is what you would be doing when you have your own app. You want people to engage with you and download your app or frequently use your app over time. For the top 10, so once the competition closes on the 15th of July, with the top 10, what we will do is start working more intensely with you. We'll run more of these webinars, but I'll also work with you one-on-one. So we will work with you directly. For the funds raised, we will do that. Like I said, we will develop the UX and back-end tool for you. And this is a great starter kit onto your app development, right? You can actually do a lot with all of this practically, and we'll do all these workshops for you where we'll give you the templates, we'll back you on our software, so you can share the software we use to do things like prototyping, so you really get to see what's involved with this, and this is even before you start app development, some tools you should be using and how you can really leverage the success of your app. For the winner, you'll have the full app package available from us and support for at least 1 year. So we will give you a contract, and that was one of the questions that came up. For both the top 10 and the winner, we will cap crowdfunding to a certain amount that we can deliver. So for the winner, we can deliver the app development package. For the top 10, we can develop, what we can deliver is the products that we've listed in the toolbox. We'll cap funding up to there. So if you raise any more funding than that, we're happy to pass off the funding to you. And you can use that funding to then either do more marketing, if it's enough funding, possibly find a developer where you can then have better discussion with him on the success of your app and developing a very successful app. So this is the capacity we have for all top 10. And then for the winner, we have the full package. So any additional funding, we're happy to pass on to you. Also use the crowdfunding anyway for yourself. So, use that to develop crowdfunding for this part of your business or any other part of your business. And we'll show you how crowdfunding is really influential with that. Also, we had some questions come through in the live webinar, and I'm just going to put them down here. So White asked, how do we choose the winner of the competition? So if that's not clear yet, the winner is the one with the most votes. Okay, so the top 10 will be the 10 profiles with the highest votes, and the winner is one with the overall highest votes. Asonele asked, do you only need a UX person or a developer for the app if you had to choose one? You need at least one of each. Okay, there's no UX designer in the world who can do front end to back end and then successful adoption. There's no developer in the world, with all due respect, that can do all of that on their own with successful adoption as well. So you definitely need both. If you know a developer, or if you are a developer, definitely, if you are a developer, and there are some in the group, definitely try and partner with UX designers. You can chat to me about how to get in contact with UX designers. It's a very difficult talent to find globally, not just locally. But like I say, we do a lot of work with Google, and we get trained by their UX designers, and they run workshops quite frequently. So attending these workshops, you will work with other people who are either interested in UX or training to be UX designers. That's how we connect with our UX designers. If you are not a developer, but you know a developer who you would like to support and maybe use your crowdfunding to give them the project, you're very welcome to do that. But inform them on the importance of getting a UX designer on their team, and ask them that they, at least partner with one other person, so that you a bit more secure in terms of the post-adoption rate of your app. Asnele also asked, why is the contract for the winner set for 1 year? So like I say, we want this to be like a real life simulation of what happens with an entrepreneur and an app development agency. In most cases, you should, from a good agency, get a 1 year contract. I've seen shorter contracts, like 6 months being agreed on between an agency and an entrepreneur. That is at the disadvantage, I would say, for the entrepreneur, because I can guarantee you it takes more than 6 months to get the results that you want from the app. So 1 year is a good time. So it's a good time, I think, for any standard contract. And then you also get to see in the contract the sort of information that you need to do there. We've been burned with contracts with a client who was a developer, but he needed us to work on some additional support plus UX. And in our contract, we didn't stipulate clearly enough the deliverables, right? So in the contract, we'll show you how to say, on this deliverable date, this is how much is paid. So you don't pay more than what they deliver to you to protect yourself. But also for us, we need to learn how to protect ourselves better, because sometimes we deliver and the client doesn't pay. So the contract is for you to have a real understanding of how this works in the industry. To develop an app, and for the ideas that I've seen in this group, a very standard time for really high quality app development plus adoption would take 2 to 3 years at least. Yeah, so for yourselves, also manage that expectation that decent apps take about 2 to 3 years to put together, and that's constant engagement and effort from your side as a business owner, plus the developers, plus your UX person, for 2 to 3 years. Just prepare yourselves for that. And I did say to Asanele that the contract for the winner will be 1 year, but as with any other contract, we can evaluate at the end of 1 year whether we renew or opt out. Okay, and there will be opt-out clauses for both the business owner and the agency, which is ourselves. So we really want to simulate this as a real case, which we will treat you as a real case and as a real client, and you can come in to meet our team anytime if you're in the same city. So that's what the competition will be. Okay, so thank you for your questions and for attending the live webinar if you were there. If you have any other further questions, you're happy to, I'm happy to engage with you further, and you can either contact me then on WhatsApp or on email, as you have been doing. And yeah, good luck to the top 50, and I'm looking really forward to working with the top 10 quite soon.